So, a while back, my friend recommended The 10X Rule by Grant Cardone, and I read it, and I actually quite enjoyed the book. Now, before you scold me and tell me what a horrible person I am for liking a book by Grant Cardone, let's watch the rest of the video, because I think it's a lot more nuanced than the good guy or bad guy approach. After I read the book, I was doing a 30-day YouTube challenge that I'm actually doing right now, where I make a video a day for 30 days straight, just to kind of learn the craft of YouTube. And during that time, I thought, hey, I liked the book. I thought it was quite applicable to a lot of situations. I agree with a lot of it. I disagree with some of it, but hey, Grant Cardone seems to be a popular guy. Let's make a video about it. And then a few of my friends pointed out just how controversial Grant Cardone actually is. And now I didn't actually realize quite how controversial he was. I knew that he was a little bit because, just salesmen on the internet inherently tend to be. But I had no idea quite how bad it was. And so I got to thinking, can I like the 10X rule, but potentially dislike Grant Cardone? As in, do I need to like the author to like the book? Do I need to like a person to understand and learn from what they are saying? And I really got to thinking about this question. And then, here I am, making this video with the answer of, I think yes. Now, let me explain, and again, please don't condemn me too much. I still think that the 10X rule is a good book. Do I think Grant Cardone is a good person? Potentially not. I still have yet to really make up my mind about him. I don't really know either way, because again, I don't know the guy. And I try not to judge people too hard just based on the opinions that are floating around on the internet. Now, having said that, I reread the 10X rule. I reread the 10X rule with the filter of, he could potentially not be the guy that I thought he was originally. And after having reread the book, I actually still agree with the same parts and disagree with the same parts, which I actually probably should have included in the last video. There are some things that I disagree on, and I'll talk about that in just a second. So how can I possibly say that? Well, I think that every time we consume something, we should look at it as both an isolated entity as well as a grand whole entity. As in, when we read a book, we should look at it as just that book and base the book on the merits of that book, and then look at the author as well and see what we think of the author. And I think as a book, it's still valid, because let's look at the core tenets of the book. Think of what you may about Grant. You should probably work harder, and you should probably want a little more, because when you aim higher, you generally tend to get way more than when you aim lower. So, can we disagree with that? Are we going to disagree that hard work is important? I think you're going to be pretty hard-pressed to find a person who says hard work is not at all important. It is not at all important in success. So then, I think we could take those bits from the book and then kind of filter the rest of it, because there are some things, like the fact that he does talk about how customer acquisition is king, as in, your product doesn't actually need to be all that great as long as you're acquiring customers, which I do agree with acquiring customers, but I also think that, having a good product is very, very important, at least in the long run. And I think that's kind of where he's being bit in the butt right now. I don't know, this is not a commentary on Grant. Please don't say that this is. But this is simply just a demonstration of, I can agree with some things, and I can disagree with some things, and then I can actually have an opinion about the author as a whole, and I think we really need to have this distinction. We really need to think about people not as in, here's a person, he said one thing that I disagree with, therefore everything that he says is wrong, therefore his entire repertoire of everything is incorrect, wrong, and should not be listened to, and instead look at it like, well, here's a person, I don't agree with some of the things, and I agree with some of the things. I think we should look at it in a more nuanced light so that we don't fall into these things, because there's still so many good things that we can learn from people who might be a little controversial. Let me give you a quick example of what I mean and kind of what I do. Tai Lopez. He's a very controversial figure. If you don't know him, he's the guy with the Lamborghini. Odds are you've seen his ads. Now, I don't particularly like the guy. I don't particularly want to buy his product, but whenever his videos pop up on YouTube, I pay attention to them, Because what is he good at? He's very good at looking at trends. And then whenever he sees a trend, he makes a quick course on it. And then I can kind of see like, hey, is this a trend? Is this actually a thing that I see? Or is this just a sham that he's putting out? Now, I haven't actually bought any of his courses, but I've actually heard his courses aren't that bad. Like, they're not quite as horrendous as people make them out to be. But I don't really listen to him for his courses. I listen for the trends. I don't particularly like the guy or dislike the guy. I, again, don't really have much of an opinion on him. However, I do think that I can gain valuable information just by setting aside any prior prejudice that I may have about that guy, and instead kind of funnel that into, can I actually learn from him? And I think that's the same thing with Grant. You might not like the guy, but can we learn from him? Yes, he is arguably a very successful person. He got there somehow, so we can look at how he got there, analyze how he got there, read his book potentially. I'm not saying read his book, but potentially. And then see like what we agree with, what we disagree with, because we're thinking beings. We're allowed to disagree with people. I frankly have yet to meet a person who I 100% agree with or 100% disagree with. There's always a little bit of an overlap, but there's always a little bit of things that I agree with or that I disagree with. And so there is a lot of nuance, and that I think is where we really need to focus in on and not judge their whole works based on a few attributes. Yes, if he's a genocidal maniac, maybe you might not want to read his books. Maybe. Or maybe you do, because that way you learn exactly how not to be a genocidal maniac. There's always value in things, and that's the point of this video. There's always value that you can attain from books, from information that people put out, regardless of what you think of the person. And frankly, there are ways of getting that information without having to pay and therefore support the artist. So I don't really condone that, but at the same time, like, if you really don't want to support the guy, like, there are ways of reading his books without paying for them. Don't do it, guys. But, like, so what do you guys think? I want to open the floor up to you guys. Am I complete BS? Am I kind of on the right track? Do you agree with me? Do you disagree? And why? I really kind of want to know your reasoning, and not because I'm a Scientology pawn. Like, that's not reasoning. Does any of this make sense? Does it not make sense? I really actually want to know. If you've made it this far, please comment down below on what you think. And if you agree with me, then please consider hitting that subscribe button, because I'm almost there, guys. I've almost hit my stride. Soon enough, this thing is gonna explode, and you are gonna want to get in on the ground level. Thank you so much for watching. Again, let me know what you think. I really want to know, and I will see you tomorrow.